Are you stressing about your finals? Do you have an important speech to remember for work? Here are our top 5 secrets on how to memorize things more quickly than others. Number 5, memory palace. First of all, we need to understand just how our brain's memory system works and how we retain information. As a whole, we naturally think that we only have 2 types of memory, short-term memory and long-term memory, when actually we have 3. There's our sensory memory too, but for now, we're focusing on turning short-term into long-term. The human brain has the ability to store information indefinitely, which means we could theoretically keep learning and retaining information forever. The problem is we get old and we forget things quicker. The human brain has the ability to store information indefinitely, which means we could theoretically keep learning and retaining information forever. This seems quite a natural process, but have you ever tried to think of something like the name of an actor and it doesn't come to you automatically, but then a few hours later when you're lying in bed, you remember? That's because your brain has stored the information into long term. Imagine a little worker man going through your brain to find these things and eventually tracking it down after hours of digging through memes and lyrics. While this may seem to be useless information, some people have actually taken this place where the little worker has to go and uses it to memorize things. This is what the Roman Simonides of Chios called a memory palace, or the method of Loci in the 6th century. Ever seen Sherlock? This is what he uses to retain all of his seemingly useless information so that he can search through it later and apply it to his case. But how do you create a memory palace? First, you have to associate it with a location like your house. You then associate whatever you're trying to remember with a room within your house. For example, if you're remembering a speech, then assign it to the first section of your hallway, and the second section of your living room as you walk into it. Do this for the rest of whatever it is you have to remember, and keep walking through your memory palace until you have filled it up with the information you need. It might take a little while to get used to, but it would be pretty cool to say that you use the same technique as Sherlock Holmes. Number 4, knowing what kind of learner you are. Think about how you learn. The memory palace involves a lot of creativity and imagination. It is also a very virtual process. There are so many different ways that individuals learn, the school system finds it very difficult to come up with one method that works for everyone. Sit down with your friends or a loved one and try to work out how you learn best. Get them to show you a cue card. If you remember what you see, then you're a visual learner. If you don't, get them to read it out to you. If you remember what you hear, then you're an auditory learner. If none of this has worked thus far, get a pen and copy out whatever is written on the cue card. Do this a few times. If you remember it yourself without looking back at the cue card, then you are a verbal learner. Finally, if none of this has worked, then get up and start walking around, or even jumping around. Heck, do a jumping jack if you want to. But while you're doing so, make sure you read the cue cards. This might give you motion sickness, but it's similar to the memory palace. You may be a physical learner who associates the movement to the different topics that you're trying to remember. This may seem like a slow process, but it will help you find the best way that your brain retains information and will save you a lot of time in the future. Number 3, mnemonics. Do you guys remember Matilda? The movie with the cute little girl with telekinesis who's just trying to read her book, but her parents and the terrifying Miss Trunchbull insist on giving her a hard time? There's a scene in that movie where the sweet Miss Honey helps her class to learn how to spell difficulty using a mnemonic. There are subsections within mnemonics, acrostics, and acronyms. An acrostic is a composition of words or a poem which form either the spelling of a word or a sequence of words. The one Miss Honey created goes like this: Miss D, Miss I, Miss F, F, I, Miss C, Miss U, Miss L, T, Y. Because of rhyming, this is easy to remember. People also use it to remember the order of the planets in the solar system. My very easy method just speeds up naming planets, aka Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Although, are we still putting poor Pluto in there? Planet zoned. An acronym is made up of a word that features the first letters of whatever it is you're trying to remember. For example, if you're trying to remember the order of the colors of the rainbow, ROY-G-BIV, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. The memory technique of using mnemonics is another creation of our friend, Simonides of Chios. It states in literature that Simonides was hired by a nobleman to recite an ode at the banquet. He did the natural thing of praising the gods, a select two called Castor and Pollux, before then praising the host. The host was offended that the gods were placed before him and paid half of his fee, and said Simonides should get the other half from the gods. Later that evening, Simonides was told that 2 young men had appeared at the banquet and had wanted to meet with him. The 2 young men ended up being manifestations of Castor and Pollux, who were also offended by the host's words and killed everyone at the banquet. Yikes. Number 2, repetition. No matter what option you guys think would work best for you, the easiest tip that I can give you is keep doing whatever you're doing. Your brain is a complex thing and needs time to process the latest information. The best way that you can help it do this is by putting time and effort into it. Make sure you plan ahead when you know you've got a test to study for, or a speech to recite, or a song to sing. Set aside a good amount of time each day to ensure that you are drilling the information into your brain on a daily basis. It's like creating a habit. Your brain only needs 2 weeks for a habit to be set into your routine. If you do this for studying, then you'll be set, and your brain will be prepared to go through whatever method you have chosen for it. A lot of famous actors use this technique themselves, not just during rehearsal either. Oscar winner Meryl Streep struggles to remember lines quickly, so she says that she can spend up to 16 hours a day learning her lines by repeating them over and over again for that amount of time. Tom Hanks also has openly admitted that he finds it difficult to learn lines. While on set, he joked that he wanted a dog that was called Line, that he had attached to the script so that whenever he needed a prompt, a dog would run on and could read the line. Bill Nye said that on the set of Love Actually, many actors would turn up without having learned any of their lines, and they would just wing it. So even the very best of actors struggle with memory. So don't panic if it's taking you a little while. Try and stick to the same time every day if you can. It means that your brain will be able to preempt the fact that you're going to be settling down to study or work, and it will be able to bring the information you need to the surface quicker. Try and stick to the same time every day if you can. It means that your brain will be able to preempt the fact that you're going to be settling down to study or work, and it will be able to bring the information you need to the surface quicker. Number 1, take a nap. I had a feeling this was going to be your favorite one. The best thing to do after you've finished studying or preparing for whatever it is you're memorizing for is to take a nap. Naps are so healthy for our brains. Did you know that after you've had a cup of tea, you should take a nap for 5 minutes? Once you've done that, the caffeine will have activated and your brain will be more active than ever. This will give your brain a chance to process everything that it's just been fed without going into a full REM cycle. You have to be careful to plan out all of your studying appropriately, however. The best time to take a nap is any time between 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. If you fall asleep after that, it will have the reverse effect. You're likely to retain 25% more of the information that you've been learning than if you were awake. Remember what we were saying about short and long term? When you first receive some information, your brain logs it into the hippocampus, which is where your short-term memory is. Think of this as temporary storage on your computer. You haven't quite backed this up yet, but the nap enables your brain to do that. While you're napping, your brain pushes the memories to the neocortex, which is where your long-term memories go. Even if you don't have time to take a nap, make sure that you take a break. Your brain will become overwhelmed with the information that you retain even less. Move completely away from the area that you're learning in and get a drink or go for a walk. Ensure that you take at least 15 minutes away. You'll come back feeling more refreshed and ready to learn. If you stay there solidly, you would be more likely to get frustrated, and your brain cannot work properly in that state. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you learned something useful. Do you have any tips or tricks that help you memorize? Let us know in the comments below and make sure to subscribe. I'll see you next time on Peachy Planet.